Good evening, folks. It's Lynn here with another Gom'S Gospels, number 15. Title tonight is Hello to All My 147 Wives. I'm back. Perhaps. And why did I use that as a topic? Well, I'll tell you why. They say that a topic is an intrigue, so I decided I'd intrigue you all with that. And in some reflections back, who out there is old enough to remember the show American Graffiti the first time it came through? In many regards, I was like the Richard Dreyfuss character. At that time, I was going to write, I was going to do this, I was going to do that. And yes, even the pretty blonde gal back in my earlier time, with her father's red 55 T-Bird, had decided that she was going to cut me out of the herd for a while, but I'm still single. Well, no, 147 wives. I'll explain this later, but they say you should always pick an interesting topic to get people to say what the heck is going on. So if you'd like to see the full length of this, come to YouTube, Gom's Gospels number 15. Hello to my 147 wives. I'm back. Perhaps. And then with that, folks, we'll go on with the rest of the audio. Now, folks, I'm going to give you, is this a true story? Well, it's true that I'm telling you a story. You can decide whether it's fiction, non-fiction, but in the interest of quantum, there's some people that, well, you just never know these days. But that being said, I have, as some of you might know, as people that have known me for many years, I have been primarily stuck in academia, as far as well, I don't kind of drift off into other things unless it's for academic research. But did I get into religious studies, or did I get into the occult, or did I get into things? Well, I tend to research. Now, they talk about quantum these days and all these scientific justifications, and as you know, folks, I came up with some geometric calculations, some quantum calculations back around 2006 that gave great insight into some of the reality geometries and sacred geometries. Over the course of time, one thing led to the other. And it finds out that interdimensionally, and science is proving some things now, that the more science is validating things, we're discovering more within the scientific community, the more it validates that an awful lot of the biblical readings and studies were, in fact, parables to illustrate a point. And actually, actually, the more we get to know about science, the more it validates what we see in religion, and in the parables, and what some people thought were impossibilities back then. Well, now they don't know. Or they do know that it's alternate to what science for years was saying. Well, it can't be conceived within our 3D science, then it can't be anything. But let's put it this way: on the basis of personal experience, folks, I'm I'm 69 years old. I am stepping into the foray of doing something to stay busy. And I had always thought about being a writer and that, so I'm thinking about writing some stuff. And I thought, well, in terms of some realities, as I find out within these lives and that realistically, folks, I have 147 wives on this planet right now from past lives. Now, ladies, before word gets out or you basically want to talk alimony or something, I was a very nice man. At any rate, if you can go out into the Akashic records and find out otherwise, but just to keep things safe, well, I was a very nice man. Now, as far as alimony, well, excuse me, I'll do what I can to help out and make to maintain some use. But as far as things, I'm 69 and I am single. As far as this earth, as far as pretty girls are concerned, but as far as pretty girls that I keep in contact, but I haven't let the secret out that, well, yes, We did hold hands a long time ago, but however, so as far as interplanetary travel and all these things, I'm going to deal in some character things, and as far as just the curiosity thing, I'm thinking I'm not really interested in being a celebrity, but at the same time, for the sake of a curiosity item, folks, in some of the things that I know as far as spiritual healing, solfeggio frequencies, and who's it, Schumann's constants, and a whole bunch of other things that are becoming to the forefront of holistic medicines and healing and that. Well, folks, it's just a case that I have. I have in the background a whole bunch of people that have known me for a long time, and that I've kept quiet in my local area because in my local area, just a small rural area, kind of fit in with the day to day. I was just hanging around and, as I say, assisting my elderly mother stay out in her farmyard as long as she could until she passed a couple of years ago. So, and because of my age and that, uh, I'm wanting to do some other things. I figured that I'm going to get around to writing some books, and I figure, well, if I become somewhat, I don't know if I'll actually stick my neck out or and get victimized. Some people call it victimized. Some people call it vitalized or revitalized in the context of a public figure. But I have I have decided that just for the sake of characters, I want to say that I'm from southeast Saskatchewan, Canada. And as well as that, our family cabin was right next door to W.O. Mitchell's cabin at White Bear Lake Resort in southeast Saskatchewan. W.O. Mitchell, for those of you who do not know, he was a very famous Canadian, colloquially bent type of author, and such things as the book "Who Has Seen the Wind," and so I do grow up and have an appreciation for ethnic and culture and that because in the background my uncle was chief examiner for the Department of Immigration, Ottawa, minister, deputy minister. My uncle during the Pearson years, the Trudeau years, Joe Clark, and then into back to the Trudeau, and then I believe the early Mulroney years. So, at any rate, so the capacity of always paying some attention to the anthropologicals, the study of man, and that plus my character being that I'm a polymath. A polymath is a person that's interested in just about anything and everything as for developing some broad perspective on it. That being said, folks, I'm going to just give you a personal account of some things that how it comes up that I have 147 wives on this planet and where I came from, as far as source, quantum physics, and some in-depth research that I've done into the true origins and some ancient scroll works and mythologies and that apply, as mentioned, to this conceptualization of living and justified as living as a Christian. Now, where did I come up with this? Well, as far as Christ, we're going to, as far as my basic, I call myself a diagnostic Gnostic, okay? The individual Christian voice. And, but when you conceive that in quantum physics, as it's known, that God or the love concept, or the scientifically proven self-perpetuating light wave that is infinite as far as its possibilities and characteristics, and that the definition of Christ is in fact not referring to the human form, but is to the divine light of God's love that is thread through the heart of all mankind in creation. So at that point, God, Christ, And, well, as much as I can, I try to abide by the Big Ten, and I have, as I say, I've studied one thing and the other, and the Akashic records and some other things that some people in the background in the audience can refer to. Well, over a period of time, one thing in coincidence leading to another, yin yang, the whole thing. Being the ability to have some level of telepathy, and have demonstrated some certain indicatives to people that yes, there's some possibilities there that this man has some additional talents, because I am an INFJ personality, or about 1% of the population. In the Briggs-Myers group of the 16 basic personality groups, the rarest of the bunch. I stands for introverted, and the INFJ and all that. Go ahead, Google it on YouTube, but we have a sixth sense. We have a highly developed ability for intuition, or for the Higgs boson, the God field, all these things that are scientifically substantiated. Have the capability to get a feel for something or a person's psyche, and I got into things one way or another as far as stuff. I am highly intuitive. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to read your mind. It's just like anything in the real world. If you are out taking from other people without permission or something, it's an act of theft. There's bad karma, so don't worry. But as far as telepathy, the chakras, the kundalini, all these things, well, by chance, unbeknownst until this research that I've been doing the last 3 or 4 years, I was running up and running on 5D back in '97, and it had basically kicked in by some of the things that had happened. So, but to get on with this character now, as far as my character development, kind of in a W.O. Mitchell, as far as the grumpy old man, I also have some other characters that I've developed, such as the heaven-sent butterfly. I feel that what we've got to look at, folks, as far as the transition, or if a person wishes to have a change of heart, or wipe the slate clean and realize the past does not determine the future, it's not a case of basically crashing and burning to the ashes and basically to take new flight as the phoenix. No, it's basically in symbolically the butterfly, as far as the chrysalis state, and basically going from pupa to chrysalis, and then the evolution of new flight through a case of evolution. Well, evolutionary Darwinism, and apparently I am the reincarnation of Charles Herbert Spencer, who had a thing called, he was an 18th century English scientist and philosopher. He coined the term survival of the fittest. He was an evolutionary Darwinist. And at that time, he came up with this thing called synthetic reality, where he was going to have a series of equations that was going to explain reality. Didn't quite fly, but what I did when I started thinking about one thing and another, I thought, well, geez, why not basically analyze reality, or emotional or metaphysical thought patterns, as much as you can down to common denominators? And so I started doing the research on that, and essentially, folks, reality, in some regards, is mathematically correct, and um, it is, well, as reality is one extreme or the other, or somewhere level in between, if you're dealing in 3D. When you throw in the fourth dimension, being time, 4D. But as far as our perceptions as general humans, but when you get to 5D, as I was running on back in '97, well, I got hit by an energy thing from the dark side, or dark energy, and at any rate, it was quite the foray. But in some regards, if you wish to review some of my other Gom'S Gospels, it was kind of a drawback from the abyss. But don't worry, I'm all the way back. I'm still standing. And but we're going to get on with some things now about the grumpy old man, or the Saskatchewan farm boy, or whatever. So I'm just going to go into it from the point of view that what you hear about these 147 wives, I'm going to explain something right now. In farm terms, or farm boys, or the locals, there's a thing called the bull crap or the horse crap. We won't use the S word for the time being, in case well, I try not to offend, but because there's numerous women in this world that I'm around all the time, and I am a man. Well, of course, I'm going to offend, but then that's women's purpose is to basically explain to men why they're not perfect, to kind of keep us on our toes so that things stay all on the up and up. Yes, deers. Well, we don't have time for 147, but trying to be polite. But as far as I will say, at this particular time in my life and venue, there is one very special gal that in the background that well, as far as holding hands and that, well, truth be known, it's been about 1,200 years, and it just kind of happens that one thing's leading to the other, and so as far as I'm concerned, I'm a lucky guy, and as far as she's concerned, as long as she wishes to tolerate me, she's got me. So, but in the meantime, if you might see me with some other ladies out and about, well, just please realize that ladies never dismiss or kiss and tell, and men never kiss and tell or dismiss and tell. So, if you see me out with some of the ladies or females, from the young to the old, as far as things, well, you just never know. And no, I'm not going to confirm or deny, but in the meantime, like I say, we'll just leave that alone as much as possible. But so for southeast Saskatchewan, as far as where I grew up in a small farm community, yes, there's the bull crap, and then there's the horse crap. Well, everybody knows that a guy that's basically into giving somebody else bull crap, it's disrespectful, it's misleading. The guy that's giving it out has no real care or concern for what the other person is going to benefit or not lack of benefit for what he's having to hear from the guy. Now, on the other hand, horse crap or horse hockey or meadow muffins, well, that's a different thing. It's kind of like the silly little white lie or something. It's harmless. It's not going to hurt. Everybody can have a good laugh out of it. So whether you think about these 147 wives that I have, actually, truth be known, there's more, but they're all over the universe. And well, as far as anything, my significant other down here, if she wants to know if there's any other woman in my life. Well, no, not really, but yeah, if it comes right down to it, don't worry. She's from out of town. She'll never know. But on quantum and that, they already do. However, but 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 the thing is, the fortunate thing is that they have all come from a similar original bloodline of my very, very first wife, a long, long time ago, and it was in a region of the universe, a multiverse, far, far, far away from here, where my origins were from the planet of the Golden Lions. And, well, how it all started was that her father picked me out to basically be the perfect young gentleman to go out with his daughter. And he happened to be the king of the planet. And she was a very friendly girl, faithful and kind, but very friendly. And but well, yeah, her father was the king of the planet Nymphomania, and I must say, at spring break, it was a very popular place for people from the other planets to drop in and say hello. So, but at any rate, so now again, are we talking in terms of the back end of that big fat cow, or you just never know? But maybe it did have to do with some horsing around, but or putting the horsing around before the cart or before the horse, or Oh, well, at any rate, you, uh, no, the details will not be on the news at 11, but you can use your own vivid imaginations. But so we get back to some other things now. As far as stuff, how about the things? Well, as far as my own personal makeup, I'll tell you where this idea of me being comfortable with the idea of living as a Christian, because I grew up in a fairly socially conservative household in many regards, and this was I was born in 55, so by the time the hippies were coming in 66, 67, 68, I was 12, 13, and that, and watching things progress, and people were talking about tuning in and turning on and dropping out, but I uh, I just took it as a middle of the road kind of guy. I was always a moderate. I was always an INFJ, and we tend to be. They say that the INFJ tends to be the kind of the God conscience type of kid on the block, and but what it is they find out now is that because we're so highly intuitive and have this telepathic ability, it's because of our highly developed pineal gland interrelationships. Because did you know that the human mind, as far as thought, memory, and recall and that, it does not operate within the human brain cells. Actually, it operates in the flux dynamics around the body. The flux field or your aura, as justified as originally seen with Kirlian photography. But so wherever I was at, other than being here, that's so I know where I'm at. Perhaps where we're going with this is I decided years ago because what would have it been? It would have been about 1984. 1984, so I was encouraged just for the sake of personal experience to give it a shot, throw my hat in the ring to run for Member of Parliament. And come around to 1987 again, then the encouragement was for me to run for a member of Legislative Assembly. But at that time, there was an elected official in there. There was in a whole bunch of news and discomfortable accusations against his propriety or lack of propriety with regard to some of his company, his female family company. But as a result of that, when it heard that I might be wanting to be encouraged to run against him, I found out that there was a fairly strong and popular response, and at which point, unbeknownst to me until several years after, but I had 3 trumped up charges and I was thrown in and railroaded, not even allowed to appear in front of the judge, and taken straight to a mental hospital. Not unlike the member of the Legislative Assembly's adopted daughter, and by insights a few years later by other members of the legal community that were in the periphery, said something was really questionable about there. There was definitely something shifty going on. Not on my part, but so I came out of the mental hospital. Officially, my phone had stopped ringing and a whole bunch of other stuff. And international trade deals and a whole bunch of other things that I'd worked in because when I'd come home, moved back from after 10 or 12 years of being away in the world to my local area, I had basically established a fairly credible blue chip record. And a lot of people, but so as I say, I just decided that's fine, and I became not appropriate to be hired, especially not with that particular political venue of belief system in as far as who should be considered acceptable or not, because certainly not somebody that was basically out to exonerate himself while they were protecting the hideous reputation and bad habits of their MLA that got reelected. But so we'll go on to some other things now. But I figured, fine, well, lemons. Why not? Why don't we make some lemonade out of it? And I decided, fine. You wanna make me out to be somewhat crazy or whatever. Why don't we have some opportunity and opportunize on that? And so I decided, well, I'm just going to use some symbolisms, and I started coming up with a silly little ditty about, well, fine, I tend to be a Christian, and here's why. And then I came up with these little things like I was born on August the 15th, 1955. Born in the middle of the night, middle of the month, at 7 minutes after 11, in the middle of the season, summer, in the middle of the continent, in the middle of the month, in the middle of the decade, close to the middle of the century. So I'm just basically a middle of the road kind of a guy. I'm living here on Middle Earth, and it's evolved to the point now that, as far as my imaginations or what I was, I had been quite involved in real estate, and then at the point that it became clumsy and arduous as far as getting back into real estate and having a professional career, because all of a sudden you're being scrutinized because you have this mental health record, which was nothing more or less than a dirty trick. So I just went into independent sales and that. And as far as what people knew in this corner of the province, I just kept it to myself. But I went long distance. I started dealing out of the area as far as the employment that I did, and I did independent sales and marketing, and came to came to get into studies of ionization, the basic building block of the universe. I studied under such people as Dr. Charles Wallach, a former head of the United Nations Environmental Council, and PhD in physics, biophysics, and engineering, and biometeorology, and a whole bunch of other things. But again, because of my polymath thing and my broad diversity, his capability of crunching numbers and that, and somewhat almost acute dependent eidetic memory, as far as some things, like, I mean, not the total anything, everything, but things that are of interest to me. As an old buddy of mine said, he says, I got a mind like a garbage can. If it's thrown in there, if it's of interest to me, it stays there. And he certainly is a highly intelligent man. Tip of my hat to him. We'll get back in touch one of these days, I'm sure. Always enjoyed his company. But, so what we did with that is, I'm just a middle of the road kind of a guy. So there you go. And then I said, as far as things go, symbologically, as far as things, well, they said that there was some speculation that Jesus Christ would return in the year of 1988. Well, I turned 33 in 1988, and then there was the other thing about, the king things. Well, as far as the oldest and the oldest sons of oldest daughters and all these things, I'm the king of a local Scottish clan in this area as far as original settlings and pioneer settlings. Actually, two Scottish clans. Let's hear it for the Morrisons and the Mackenzies. And as far as engineering and putting things together and configuring things, as I did with my academics in ionization and that, well, I basically scoped out over the last several years a way that we can have an environmental and an economic recovery for the whole planet that could tally up in the terms of several $100 trillion a year in economic activity, which is sustainable, realistical and approachable, and will basically deal with global warming and that. And will not be an upside down model, but as far as ionization and radio wave ionization and a whole bunch of other things, as far as weather control and that and moderating, yes, it was all in the works. And for the last 3 or 4 years, it was in the works. However, some of the lesser upwardly creative oligarchs of the group, they are dabbling around in 25-30 trillion a year as far as new stuff, as opposed to probably a couple of quadrillion over the next 32-33, plus the ability to realistically regulate the atmosphere, the atmosphere, the ecology, the symbiotics, and that to realistically support anywhere from another 55 to 85 billion people. Actually, far more than that when you realize that such things as radio frequencies and new things that we're finding in quantum where people can learn to master their own mind to basically, well, manna from heaven to sustain oneself without food, where they, well, I guess it's as simple as thinking about it in the proper construct. However, but as I say, I was working in common denominators. So when you realize that the idea of the belief in Christ is basically just the idea of conceptualizing, I keep it simple. I believe in the basic 10, and, reality is one extreme or the other. Good, bad, up, down, right, wrong. And so you work in some aspects of kindness, charity, benevolence, some level of courage and faith, and the reality as far as something that was channeled by another fellow as far as things that supposedly from the Spirit of Christ who basically started off the book of Course in Miracles with saying that here it is. Anything that exists is real. Anything that is real need not feel fear. Therein lies the peace of God. So I will extend upon that. So basically, if a person feels fear where they're at, then where they're at as far as their balance, where their belief system is, or what they're doing or they're not doing, that isn't very real in terms of peace of mind, whatever. Now, as far as religious belief, secular, otherwise, it doesn't matter. But if it is a religion that's based upon the belief of human dignity and love and respect for a person's human dignity, then what's wrong with it? But with the idea of coexistence and everybody's can basically pursue and but if there's an obsession about it, it has to subdue and basically take over somebody else, or basically just miss somebody else's belief, just because it's not your own, and that's part of the obsession of having your belief system and your prophecy fulfilled. Well, it kind of runs counter to some basic belief systems of thou shalt not kill, and some other human dignities that leave it somewhat in contradiction. We will leave it at that for now. But so we'll get back to the thing about how I came to come into these other things about this second coming of Christ thing. So the other thing, Matthew 24 talks about a streak of east to west that will announce, the taking of power and that. Well, back when I was originally started freaking people out with these similarities and symbologies, but there was the comet Yakutaki, and then there was also the comet Hale Bopp, and I think they were give or take around 95, 96, or 97, 98, as far as what they were, and there were streaks of east from east to west, and they'd never shown up in the history before. And at two separate times, I was taking in one case, I was taking power over some major political issue on this continent as far as stopping a continent-wide ambition to put in toxic waste incinerators, not with a bad deal, but not with a bad intent, but it was to burn the Cold War weapons inventory of chemical and biological weapons. But at that time, it was stopped, and a tip of the hat to the Oval Office of Bill Clinton, President Clinton, and Vice President Al Gore at the time that into the foray that basically saw the common sense of shutting it down. And as well as that, at that time, my PhD friend, he was basically introducing some things of the insights that we gave as far as running high intensity ozone ionization to basically oxidize and basically break down all these things. And it can be done with mobile units as opposed to central rail transport. But so that was out of the way. But So, but as we carry along here, folks, about other one thing and another about how did I end up with 147 wives? Well, folks, here's the thing: we all come from a certain origin. We all come from a different background. Some people are basically born for the first time around on this earth for the first time, and or the manyth times, and there are us as I find out, I am King Eli by my original name, as I am looked upon in the Hall of Kings. It's a metaphysical little kind of place where you kind of zone out and take a rest and things as far as your metaphysical capabilities, because over time, folks, with the metaphysics that are going on in my thoughts, and not the occult, but one thing led to the other. But I have a switchboard going on in my head that works on quantum, and so I come to find out these things are these little imaginations. But um, I'm going to speak in terms of Tolkien as far as the Lord of the Rings similarities, some of the realities in that, and what we're looking at as far as dark energy. And it is as simple as this, folks. Everybody is in control of themselves as far as where they go in life. It is random, it is collective, but the truth of the matter is, as far as what we're finding out with quantum physics, entanglement, and all these other things, that as far as a thought, well, and a peace of mind and things, well, the truth of the matter is, folks, since for the last 27, 28 years, when I got nailed by a certain dark energy thing that kind of put me into a loop system that, well, it's supposedly the unsolvable riddle, but the thing is, it's not an unsolvable riddle. It's an inescapable reality that if you exist, you are, which is fine. And I exist in terms of the infinite and the love and the dignity and the grace and the service and the infinite and the all. But they say that there's the other thing, allude to a certain book, but however, that is just a thought, and it's a minuscule thought, and anybody that has it, if you don't stress and boil away on it and make out of it more than it is, except a slight little distraction of just a thought, well, poof, all gone, because the thought is that for as much as that thought exists, infinite light is existing, such is so overwhelmingly overpowerful that why get hung up on something as simple and dismissing and petty as that? But what was it called? The golden king, or I don't know what. At any rate, however, here we go. No, what was it? The king in yellow. I don't know, but at any rate, so as I find out that I'm a planetary manager, and I'm apparently the white status wizard and head archangel, head archangel knight of the green temples of the universe and the kingdoms of heaven and the universe and the big guy, and we're all planetary managers, and there's a few of us interspersed. But if you go to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, written by Chaucer way back when, as far as the Green Knight and that, green is the color of magic. It is also one of the most capable colors as far as light warrioring, and a whole bunch of other things. But that'll be in one of the books. But the thing about it is, folks, as far as the Green Knight, the premise of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is Sir Gawain was kind of out riding through the forest one night, and he was confronted by the Green Knight. And the Green Knight basically went into the investigation, or he engaged in conflict and battle with Sir Gawain. Sir Gawain was down to his dead last, and he knew it was over. But the thing was, the Green Knight at that point determined that his cause was just, and he had fought valiantly for a just cause. And at that point, the Green Knight and his justice by the lock of Excalibur, the ancestral sword, the one or the other, or the determining, and the geometry of the lock of Excalibur is the same as that of the Mercedes, only it's 180 degrees and turned up. Kind of in Victorian, victorious. But and a few other variations, but in the color green and some other things, right in the center of the spectrum as far as the light wave, and that in the middle. And so the other thing is, I was born in 55. And they said that the indigo children were being born in the early to mid 60s and that, and then the rainbow children and the crystal children and that, and excuse me. I'm old King Eli. I'm the Lord King of all the kings of the ancients. And that even includes the badass kings that basically did metaphysical battle with me. And took their whimpering whipping, and they still tried to get back and try to get up, but basically dark never basically beats the light, because as soon as the darkness overwhelms, you just enlighten them with things and proof all gone. Try again, but one of the petty annoyances. But thing about it is, Lord King of all the kings of the ancients, and yes, the white status wizard, I guess the imperial wizard of the archangel of the green temples of the universe. You know, we restore planets. What was it? There was one movie. It was called the Genesis thing. As far as, well, you might say, how can that be possible? Well, quantum physics says anything is possible, and when you are backed up by literally hundreds of billions of trillions of other spiritual entities and that, and Knights of the Green Temples and all those things, well, at that point, folks, the quantum force and the belief, the fact that it is all central and all right here, all right now, and how you're interfaced with it, those things are in fact a reality. Now, as you might wonder, what am I doing sitting around in this very nice, comfortable RV? Now, there's my little bulldozer. I had a guy at a garage sale the other day throw it in. He was wanting to get rid of some stuff, and he asked me if I like bulldozers, and of course I'm a guy. Has it got a motor in it? Of course, of course I'm interested. So, but I ramble on. But so folks, I'm planning on writing some books, and so if you see me out and about, I'm. You can call me anything, but don't call me late if the homemade oatmeal cookies are coming out of the oven, and stuff like that. And further on to the, well, what other things about that second coming of Christ? Well, my first name, Lionel, Lion, Lion, and then dash EL, which is the all God, L, the original all total God. That is, my first name is a king. My first origin name is Eli, L-I, the all God, I. And other things about my birthday, 7 minutes after 11, 1955. And things, and as far as my name and all those reductions with numerology and that, I come up with 3s and 7s and 11s and 27s and all these symbologies that all over the place. And apparently, as far as I find out, I'm also of the bloodline of King David. My last name is Johnson, King John's son. Who is it? George, John, Paul, and Ringo, and Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Those are the books of the Bible, right? No. No, there was the book of John, Luke, Matthew, and Mark, and so fair enough. But John, again, it's a very well-known old surname and stuff, and King John's son, 1215, Magna Carta, all that stuff. And apparently, folks, hi there, but I played a dual role back in the times of King Arthur. I apparently am King Arthur. King Arthur, Ferrari, Maserati, LE, Hot Rod Lincoln, pink Cadillac, Jaguar car, whatever. But at any rate, sure wish they would have had a track too 2,000 years ago. Just kidding. For all we know in quantum, it could have been right now that it is, and who knows? Who's to say? But no, I make no pretense. I am not Jesus Christ. I mean, anybody. But the thing is about the second coming of Christ, folks, is that anybody that basically lives in the idea of just abiding in terms of some respects as far as human dignity, grace, and service to the idea of benevolence and giving a damn and some synergy for other people as opposed to this winners and losers, because let's face it, if everybody was out riding around in the forest and feeling all huffy and tuffy and doing battle, and they realized they were going to be running into the Green Temple, the Green Temple boys and the Green Knights, and the color of green, and color of green is the color of magic as well. Actually, it's not magic; it is in fact quantum and some other things that go well beyond the dimensions of 3 or 4D. Actually, we can go into situations such as such contexts as well, interdimensionally, the truth of the matter is, folks, as far as the universal code and some of those geometries that I discovered, and that, well, we're talking a myriad of interdimensionals, the multiverses, and that, and well, and the planet system that I came from. It was out in the central planet of that was Apedia, where they build everything with light, and essentially because everything is light. And the truth is, we are really, really light, but because of mass and all those games that physics play, the truth of the matter is, an atom is about 99% air, but it's a matter of getting in on and tuning in on a person's frequency, or getting similar vibes, or for example, people when they meet us and they remark and say, I ran into somebody, we got talking, it was like we'd known each other for all our lives or hundreds of years. Don't ever doubt it, folks. And so with that, what are we at? We're at 47 minutes and 25 seconds. And so am I going to bore you some more? But I was going to say that as far as my attitude, well, I'm a heterosexual. And as far as the transformation and that, folks, it's not as far as a physical surgery or that or whatever, but it's a transformation in terms of getting your head focused to basically find the balance to transform to see how you live within your heterosexual body. It's, all this thing about this idea of transformation, it's just basically to feed the fires and keep the balance sheets up for the people that are selling scalpels, as far as I'm concerned. But and that is my opinion, because well, why do I look upon myself as a heterosexual? Well, excuse me, because as far as sex is concerned, the last time we noticed I still was one, and yes, I'm a male, and if I'm sorry, but I don't have a problem dealing with the reality of that. And as far as women, well, yes, there's women that seem to figure that they've got to act like men these days, and I don't know why, but I look back 40, 50, 60 years ago when they looked at the paradigm, when it was the commitment of basically no nookie and holding hands, and then the full commitment and I do, and then falling in love in the real way. Because you see, falling in love has nothing to do with the physical. I mean, physically attractive and that, yes, but in terms of the real tie that binds, it's truly spiritual, it's metaphysical. That is the only place that true love actually exists. And I'll tell you why I know that. Because I've had it happen to me twice in my life. And I'll tell you, it is so intoxicating, and it is so overwhelming, it is so far above and beyond that ultimate orgasm. And as I say, yes, back in my younger, when everybody was out and, being a little bit of adventurous and maybe ending up, you know, going a little bit further than man might have had the courage to ever have gone before in the younger ages. Well, essentially, I on those few occasions that I was granted the privilege and the opportunity, yes, I'm definitely heterosexual. And but the thing about it is, folks, truth of the matter is that it is strictly a spiritual thing. That so. And and the other thing, women, I'll also be it's entirely honest with you here. As far as those guys in the world right now that's telling you to be all liberated and that, and go out and do, instead of sitting around and la waiting for your ya going out and getting your yas. Well, ladies, every time there's the saying that when you never know a man until you've slept with him. Well, the truth of the matter is, at the point that you take in a man's DNA into your system, it actually migrates and becomes part of your brainwave and your light wave cycles. And it changes the way you think, physiologically. So, as a result, the more men, so that is the observation these days as far as sociologists and anthropologists, that they say women are becoming far more masculine these days. Well, let's put it this way: if and a lot of women don't feel like themselves, and it takes about a 7-year clearing of abstinence, and that, or you can use some things known as solfeggio frequencies, and some things that I can basically avail myself with to basically show people how to get their head cleared out of that. Because you take some woman that has had numerous lovers and that, well, excuse me, if she doesn't feel quite the same as she used to, and she might have a hard time feeling that she's centered or having her, because as they say, they know that in that particular venue, that there are women that have had numerous different males, they do tend to the extreme, do tend to lose themselves, and they're never the same person, and they're the first to admit it. So as I say, to the ladies that might like to have those things cleared out, and well, my contact information will be down below, or anybody, or couples, because over the years, through when I'd been to university and that, and studied psychology, and I've been in sales and marketing for many years. At this present time, I am not in sales and marketing, in a sense, because as I say, I'm sitting here kind of pinned down by the reaction by local about they hear that, oh my God, and what, this guy's in on a several $100 trillion project, and if I get just an eensy-weensy small percentage in terms of things that are in the works, I'm going to be. And it's Zeke, oh my God, well, if he has money, then he's going to be in competing for this hogs at the trough race for all the farmland. No, folks. Excuse me, I'll just be in here to basically provide some assistance as far as cash flow for those that might wish to approach me about things that I might find to my approval as far as what people might wish to do with their land and that, and allow them to stay on their land and become more viable and profitable. Because as far as radio wave ionization, folks, I've got a way that I can optimize against simple meteorological maps and that, and ionization principles, and things known from greenhouses, where you could basically set up a tower in the middle of a section of land, put up some solar panels, or the other thing that I've got is I've figured out a way that you can have a generator that creates an infinite amount of power, or an infinite lifetime, and it has no moving parts, and it wouldn't even hardly make any noise. It might hum a little bit, but basically no moving parts and that, and it's optimizes, and actually Tesla would be proud of me. And but no, flip on the switch and basically run it, and have it interpretive off a biometeorologically sensitive interpretive grid throughout the farmland and that, and You can basically prevail and enhance rain optimization and that, but basically just by flipping a switch on and optimizing the ionization on a section of land for pennies an acre. As far as pennies an acre, you can realistically no change in the rain or anything else, an 8 to 20% increase in productivity with the flip of a switch. But and can you make money on it? Oh, you certainly can. But however, we've got all those things in the background, and in the meantime, is anybody racing to come and do business with me? Oh no, no, we can't have that guy. Oh no, there's with all that money, and then the big oligarchs, they're trying to figure out how to stymie it to keep their incompetent programs that are upside down and actually defying global warming cures because the Antonio Gutierrez, but at least a year ago when the United Nations said the global warming's still going up, he was being polite when he said it, but he was just basically as much as saying that the electric car guys and all these other things, they don't know what they're talking about. And on the science, provably, they do not. But as far as the program we've got, it has to do with pyrolytics and getting rid of burning, basically regenerating and processing, minimizing municipal costs by getting rid of waste by pyrolytic, low oxygen pyrolytic things to convert into energy, to convert into energy and steam power to basically create carbon, which can create more steam power to run electric generation, which means that all of a sudden your garbage, instead of an ongoing, rising, continuing municipal fixed cost uh, liability, all of a sudden it becomes an asset. And as well as that, off of that, you can make marginal farmland into great farmland, not good farmland, or non farmable land into farmland, and very abundant farmland into even more so. But unfortunately, right now, folks, we have a situation in the world as far as our farming where if you just replaced 1% of the carbon that's being depleted out of our topsoils, global warming would be gone. But we're not doing that because this intensive farming, you're looking at the law of disappearing returns because intensive farming, chemical farming, all these things to basically max out the soil as opposed to basically make the soil more maxed as far as its nutrients and capabilities. Well, they're going about it in a yeah, it was a quick band-aid fix, but they again the experts in the big multinationals are showing that for the long term they haven't got a clue what they're doing, and in the opinion of the people that do, and the rest of us that are taking flack from all those big shots while they're trying to either stymie us and get us out of the road or try to hop into the industries and that and figure out what we're doing so they can capitalize and make all the money again, as opposed to working cooperatively and synergistically and put us on paper and let us get to work at saving this planet and being real. But in the meantime, we're coming up with the 58-minute mark, so to keep it under an hour, I'm going to say this at this point, folks. As far as some of my characters, I'm the heaven sent butterfly. I am the tenor's flea stud because I could do Tennessee Ernie Ford by the time I was 15. My mother was a trained operatic soprano. My uncle and my aunt, she was British Secret Service at one time. She was also director of the Fort Garry Country Club in Winnipeg back when Royal Fort Garry, yeah, dropped 600 plates on the dinner table at dinner time for. She directed that and then off directed YWCA's for years and well I grew up in a world of diplomacy and that, and my great grandfather, he was one of the richest men in Saskatchewan until Black Monday in October. What was that, 28 or something? But he ended up as the largest contractor to the U.S. government and things before he passed away in the early 60s. As for myself, just to carry on with the folklore or the truth of the reality, it was such an aggressive thing around down here that everybody was too busy figuring how to keep me elbowed out of the way so they could have their land grab. Let's just say I went into real estate elsewhere, and as a result, I manage hundreds of trillions of galaxies and planets and solar systems all over the place. And here's the deal. as far as those women that might my past wives or present wives or how whatever we're gonna call it, just one great big happy family. Boy, talk about a bill for the hometown, for the for the family reunion. But at any rate, here it is, folks. How 59:52, but we're gonna go over the 1 hour mark. But the words to best explain myself: wordy. Sometimes less is more. But more or less, as far as some of the other things, like I say, there's the tennis flea stud, and then the Jock C.D. Woodstock the Fourth, Reverend Jock C.D. Woodstock the Fourth, and then the Reverend Billy Graham, Cracker Jack of all trades, Reverend Rambo, Lord Isaac Newton Wordsmith the Fourth, and all these other silly little characters that I do. But if anybody might be interested in putting together a production company or a movie thing, I've got a story that is well, it has similarities. It's not a plagiarism on Tolkien or the Lord, the Lord of the Rings or anything. But folks, if anybody might have the opportunity to wish to engage into something to exercise upon the marketing and the copyrights of that thing, well, J.K. Rowling had an interesting thing as far as Harry Potter, but as far as Star Wars and things are concerned, well, you remember the Jabba the Hutt guy? Well, what was it about? I'm going to say it'll be about next spring, well, next February, March. 400 trillion light years open sights. Got the guy. Well, and as far as some other symbolisms, yes, and they are all recorded, folks. They are all recorded and annotated and stuff, and somebody's got them up there on the cloud. But as far as stuff right now, folks, I figured that I was going to just take this lifetime off. That was the whole plan. And that was the whole plan, and that was the deal that God and I had basically there. You can have it, and then all of a sudden, the unexpected happened, or the surprise of that clever old guy. He basically deked me and figured I was going to have a nice, quiet, reclusive kind of time on this planet, and then, well, one thing happened in '97, and then another, and then another, and all of a sudden, about 4 or 5 years ago, things just got to the point that myself and some of the other environmentalists and that yes, and whose parents were PhD engineers that worked on reverse engineering spaceships and all this other stuff, and well, I had this ability for common denominators, but basically, anybody out there that wants to know about how to basically do a whole bunch of things as far as the universal code, or as I alluded to, as far as Tesla was saying about the infinite amount of energy that was, well, I came up with that insight in 2006, 2007 off of some of those mathematical numerical functions that I had that got stolen over the virtual world, and they're making millions and trillions of dollars of technology and AI and supercomputers now. And I became aware of the math and the capabilities that were going out there, and I realized that it was off those functions that were stolen by a private fax transmission to a lawyer. But however, I guess that when they got hijacked and ended up in the hands of the U.S. and the CIA instead, well, fine, I guess, give and take. But their Gateway project, all that other stuff, been doing that since '97. Excuse me, and as well as that, folks, I will remark this that if you want to give me a call about some ideas, well, I am an INFJ, and that means I am quite shy. I used to run from speaking in front of crowds. I had thought of going into the ministry when I first left the school, but I was too shy. I couldn't see myself standing up in front of a congregation and saying anything or whatever. But as far as studio work, cameras, small groups and that, I worked in sales and marketing, and I have in the background. If some people want some optimization as far as sales, marketing, business, and that, I don't have the repertoire as far as the actual people within my personal group, but I study sales, marketing, human behavior, and that opportunities on the internet all the time. And as well as that, I turned numbers that were 2 and 3 times higher than a lot of sales groups with different approaches for different things, but not tricks, techniques. As soon as you're trying to play a trick, people read into it. So truth can walk around, naked lies have to be covered up. So that being said, folks, we're at a minute and 5:22 now. So where are we going with this? I think we're just about done up, but other than to say that here I am, and to my 147 wives, and don't sneak up on me. Well, actually, you can't sneak up on me if you've got some oatmeal cookies. If they're fresh out of the oven, I'll know when you're coming. But however, I uh, I just had a string of things for the last 3 or 4 years where all of a sudden I was lining up with my business partners and some international bankers that I was going to be cashing in without some big bucks and that. And some people got panicky around here, and oh my God. And all of a sudden, well, no, we don't. Oh God, yeah, we're looking for backers and investors all over the place, but no, we don't need you because you would end up basically taking over, and well, and they're trying to take over me and take so like I say, lack of rapport. So I'll just take that for what it is. I'll take my monies and my royalties and that, and I'll just do some development elsewhere, I guess, and other places, and we'll get the employment and the jobs and the benefits, and but it was the people's choice. So who am I to argue? But then, in order to be an expert, you got to be from at least 500 miles away these days. And they always say that, friends and relatives are always your worst customers. So I shall be moving along. But if you know anybody in studios in Hollywood or anything, have I got some great ideas for some movies and that. And as far as that pretty girl in the background that I'm holding hands with, yes, as far my thing about my gig about being the tenor's fleeced out or whatever. Well, as far as me being complimentary and saying those things about pretty girls and that, well, as far as simple common sense, if there's a lady around and that, does it not make sense to be nice and complimentary to them as opposed to being otherwise? But then, of course, us men, we have the blessing of having women on the earth to always be trying to change us, and always constantly on the up and up about the fact that we're not perfect, which makes us perfect for them because women are perfectly happy showing men that they're not perfect. But I already knew that. But at the same time, if there's oatmeal cookies involved, well, how might I be able to help my personal plight and keep you happy, my dear? Pass the oatmeal cookies. I know I'm getting obese and fat and have a hard time doing the honeydew list, but that's beside the point. But you're perfectly happy telling me that, so see, we were meant for each other. In the meantime, folks, this is meant to wrap up at 1 hour and 8 minutes and 48 seconds, and I guess if nothing else, this was a simple exercise to prove that I can form complete sentences. So, in that point, see you later, and all my regards and to my wives out there. Uh, uh, you wouldn't, folks, wouldn't have any ideas where I can find some old phone booth around, because as far as changing in and out of my secret identity and that, It's, if there's a time to delay, if there's a whole bunch of crises around and I'm not doing my job as far as being there to, underdog is on his way, here I come to save the day, that I'm being a little tardy and lax in my duties. Well, it's because I can't find a phone booth to change out of my in and out of my secret's identity. But here, I'll take off my Clark Kent glasses and things. But you folks, in the meantime, you have a good day, and and well, you got to take lemons and make lemonade out of it. So while everybody else was scrapping it down here on this planet, I went into real estate elsewhere. And, well, as I say, if some of my wives seem to figure they want some compensation or some alimony or something for taking such good care of me, well, I'll I'll throw some planets or some stars or some comets in, and maybe a galaxy or two. But I'll tell you right now, if you got your eyes on that 65 center console with the old 390, excuse me, but and as well as that, if there's thunder in the clouds, as far as some of the women that are upset at me because I'm not going to basically part with that old 429 that I found in an old T-Bird, that's right. At any rate, but as far as to my native friends, yes, and I feel most honored and privileged that I am. Well, there's my little angel there. Yes, one of heaven's angels. But I have three native names. First one that was given was by the son of a chief when I basically stood up for him when there was a person from the far side of the world that had come to this country and was being rough on him. And, well, as I say, my uncle was Department of Immigration, Ottawa. Welcome to Canada. And that's right, you're welcome here. And as far as the people that have been here many more thousand years than any of us, you don't do that to them. So I sorted the guy out real good, and he didn't get any sympathy from the rest of the people that figured he damn well deserved it. And after that, the son of the chief, we went out with cedar leaf ceremony, and he called me Buffalo Hooves of Thunder in the high clouds. Because, well, I took command of the situation and sorted the guy out, and he had it coming. And then the other one was gifted to me through channeling, and that through Spirit himself, and that is Star Dancer. But in terms of all over the universe and the things that I've been doing since I had that dark energy experience, and I basically had to wrap it up and take it down to just a minuscule thought that truly it's nothing. It really is nothing. And the abyss is only a conceptual that it's not the pits if you're basically looking at it from being on top of the world and realizing it's minuscule. It's nothing at all as far as any concern. And as well as that, my third one was Golden Eagle Soaring, which again was in a dream state, and it was basically gifted to me by an old, an old native friend. Well, he would be old now, but he was a native friend of mine, and also a Navy SEAL, and heck of a good guy in his own way. But he didn't put up with any bull crap, and at any rate, that is no bull crap. And basically, in the meantime, as far as the horse hockey or the horse puckies or whatever, well, you folks decide whether this is bull crap or horse hockey. But as far as one thing and another, I will let you know this, folks. I did grow up on a farm. My grandfather and father were known as a couple of the better horsemen in the area as far as training. And as well as that, I trained under a couple of gentlemen that raised world champion Belgians for generations or for decades, and their parents, their father before that, and grandfather before that. One of the individuals was also the manager of the Clydesdale Hitch of the Budweiser beer. So, yes, in terms of whether it's the bull end of the thing or the horse end of things, well, yes, I do know which end of the horse, one end of the horse. I do know one end of the horse from the other. And so, for the people that basically seem to seem to be seems to be full of the bull stuff and that, and are actually more the back end of the horse for it. Well, like I say, W.O. Mitchell taught me well, and I wouldn't mind writing some books or getting some studio production of that. So if anybody out there might have an inclination of getting a hold of me, I am at 306-485-9976, and the rest of my contact information will be down below. Now down below this video, we don't think in terms of down below, because I mean, in the all in all, well, heaven and earth becoming as one. Well, if it's heavenly above and the earth is heavenly below, then it's all heavenly above or below. So there is no above or below. It's all heavenly, right? Of course. Why change something that's working out okay? In the meantime, best regards.